Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Love Good Lane. My name is Matthew. I'm so glad that you're joining us. If this is your first time here, then welcome. Today, we are going to be making some of the best zucchini bread. And I feel like I can safely say that it is the best because of why. Well, let me tell you briefly what happened. I had my mother's zucchini bread recipe. I don't know where she got it. I'll tell you more about that in a second. But I had it. I have it somewhere. Where it went, I don't know. There's a blank spot in one of my recipe books. I have a feeling that that's where it was, but what I did with it or where it's currently living in our house, I don't know. So I thought, well, no big deal. Zucchini bread. I'll just look online and we'll find something. It'll be great. I did that twice with two different recipes, and I was not happy with the results. Not happy at all. Texture wasn't quite as good. One of them, I didn't like it. Wasn't good. So I called my mom, and she sent me another copy of her recipe. And by the way, we grew zucchini in our little garden this summer. So that's why we're using up zucchini, doing sauteed zucchini and zucchini muffins and zucchini bread and all kinds of things. Zucchini. That's why we were looking for the recipe and looking to get into bread making. This is actually like round 2 or 3. I think we might be done. I've got several loaves in the freezer, and we've eaten several loaves of zucchini bread. And the zucchini has been prolific, so it keeps coming. But I think we're done after this. But I wanted to share with you because it's just the perfect texture. It's easy to do, good flavor, just all around. I give it mega thumbs up. I did have to write it down. I actually do that with all my recipes. I need to have them in hard copy. I just don't like on my phone or the tablet having to keep it up on the screen. And then if my hands get messy and I need to touch the screen to wake it up or to change to the next page, then I get it all. I'm not digging it. So I like to have hard copy. So, I transferred it from a text message that was a picture of my mom's original recipe that's in her handwriting. It's on one of those old-timey cards that at the top had the little, not logo, what word am I looking for? The little design that was like the two Dutch kids. It's like yellow and orange. And I know those of you that are my age or older, I know you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, very cute recipe card. And oftentimes my mom's cards would say on there who she got the recipe from or where she got it from the newspaper or such and such magazine or whatnot. But this one didn't. It was just blank there. So I don't know where she got it, but it's a good one. I also decided, as I wrote it down, I decided to write it on my paper the way that it was on her recipe card, which is different from the way that we do recipes nowadays. Most modern time recipes, it will have the list. It starts with the list of ingredients, and then it'll start with the instructions. Usually, if you're baking or using the oven, the beginning of the instructions will say to preheat the oven to such and such temperature. But this recipe card was different, and I have some vintage recipe books that I love, and I noticed that many of those are written in the same style as this, where it'll just start right off the bat with the instructions, and then as it goes, it will list out the ingredients that you need for each stage. I think the modern way is a little bit better, or it's a little bit easier to compile your grocery list for items that you need to get. Let's put it that way. Anyway, I digress. I'm getting off topic. I love to read cookbooks, look at cookbooks, anything with cookbooks, like people read books. Is anybody else like that? Do you? I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I enjoy it. I find it relaxing. It's fun. At any rate, I also want to mention that, yes, there are some dishes in the queue here to be washed. I just cooked up some bacon in the oven, actually. We're having breakfast for dinner, which we love around here. So I did up some bacon in the oven, so those pans are waiting. And yeah, there's other stuff going on. I made a blueberry pie earlier. So this is real life, folks. Nothing that you see here is staged in a fancy special way. This is my house and our kitchen, and we're doing it. So let's get to the zucchini bread. First, what are we going to do? We're going to mix up, I've got a big bowl here. First, we're going to mix up 2 cups of sugar, which I have measured out here. We're going to put that in. And then we've got 1 cup of oil. This is vegetable oil. I don't think it really matters, but I personally wouldn't use something that was pungently flavored, like some olive oils have a very particular taste. And then we need 3 eggs. So we'll get those going in here. 1. 2. And 3. Okay, we did that. Oh, I need to get out my vanilla. We need 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And as I've said before, if you've joined me before for a recipe, the cap of most bottles of vanilla is equal to 1 teaspoon. So I don't have to get out an additional measuring spoon. We just use the cap. Okay, did that. Let's see. We're not going to whisk later, but do we want to whisk? Sure, let's whisk this together. Break up the eggs and get it going. Once we get this nicely combined, then we're going to stir in 2 cups of zucchini, which I have right there. Happens to be fresh from our garden, as I mentioned. Almost. Not quite. I can tell that some of the egg isn't all the way worked in. There. Okay. I think we're going to be done with the whisk because I want to stir in the zucchini. So it's a creamy, probably can't see it. It's a creamy consistency. Got my 2 cups of shredded zucchini. I used a smaller zucchini. Didn't really have much seeds, but I left the skin on. And if you do have seeds, then you can put them in there. It's not going to hurt anything. They're edible. I will say, I've learned through our home garden experience, the bigger you let the zucchini get, the more seeds they have and the tougher the zucchini flesh is. So something to keep in mind. What should I use? Let's use one of these. This is a Pampered Chef scraper. I have several different scrapers. I like this one because you can get all of your batter or whatnot from the inside of the bowl by scraping it, but it's also not too flexible because that can be a problem depending on what you're trying to stir or mix. All right, I think that is good. Got that mixed in. Okay, next, what should we do? I think the recipe doesn't call for this, but I think we're going to do it. We're going to whisk up the dry ingredients first before we put it into the wet. And I think that's a good idea because then everything we'll be sure that everything is evenly distributed. Because as you probably know, when we add the dry to the wet, or depending on the recipe, vice versa, if you have anything clumped together or you haven't mixed it, it's much harder to get it evenly distributed. Everything kind of freezes, and so we don't want pockets where we have clumps of salt or ginger or whatnot. So I have 3 cups of all-purpose flour here in this bowl. Also, as usual, don't worry about trying to write down the recipe. I'll list the recipe in the description box right below the video. Okay, and so 3 cups of all-purpose flour, and then in this dish I have our spices, which are, what are they? They are 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda. We've got 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of cinnamon, a teaspoon of ground ginger, and the original recipe said a teaspoon of cloves. That seems like a lot to me because cloves are really strong. I love the flavor, but they're really strong. So I've reduced that to a scant 1/2 teaspoon of cloves, and optional if you want to, 1 cup of chopped nuts of your choice. I'm leaving out the nuts. I happen to love nuts, but not everyone in my house does, and so we're doing without today. So I'm going to add this there. Don't want to leave any of that goodness in the bowl. Okay, that's fine. Let's get a new... Oh, that one's a little big. What else we got? This is a good size. So I'm just going to use my whisk to incorporate the spices and the flour. I don't know. I don't remember. Did I mention I preheated the oven to 325? I actually preheated both of my ovens because we're going to do all the pans at the same time. And then I have greased and floured 3 loaf pans. The original recipe says to do it in 2 pans. I like my loaves to be a little bit smaller, so I'm using 3 pans. And as you know, if you've been cooking with me before, I use shortening to grease my pans, but you could use butter if that's your thing. Okay, I think that's good. Let me show you my pans. So one of them is, does it have the size? Maybe. Can I see it? Maybe. This is a 9.5 by, no. Yes, 9.5 by 2.5. It's a Pyrex vintage bread pan. This one is a Miro, M-I-R-R-O. Never heard of that before. I don't know where I found this pan. I probably had it for 20 years. It's an aluminum pan. It's also, oh, this one's 9.25 by 5. Well, I think it's the similar size to the Pyrex. And then this one is actually my favorite. And I got it at a thrift store. There is no writing, no name or anything on it. So I have no idea what it is or where it came from, but it's maybe more of a tea loaf size. It's bigger than a mini loaf, but I love it. The aluminum is perfect for these kinds of quick breads, pumpkin bread, zucchini bread, banana bread, all the breads. Yeah, I love this one. It's my favorite. I wish I had more, but I don't remember where, well, I actually do remember where I got it, but it was a secondhand store. So anyway, someday I'm going to do a video about baking pans and the different sizes and whether they're shiny metal, dark metal? Is it glass? Is it ceramic? Is it stoneware? All of that affects what you're baking, and the bake time, and the temperature, all that. So I think, excuse me, I think that would be interesting. So maybe that'll be coming up in the video. But anyway, this one is aluminum, as is this one actually. Okay, so we've mixed up our dry ingredients, and now I'm gonna put about half in first and mix it in, stir it around. And again, I'm just doing that because if I dump it all in at once, then it's going to be a little bit harder to evenly combine. Okay, now I'll put in the rest. Did you know, fun fact, that breads like this, zucchini bread, banana bread, pumpkin bread, what other ones am I missing? They are technically cakes, not breads. That makes sense. I wonder if it was a home gardener that at some point in history decided they needed to come up with ways to use all the zucchini from their garden that came up with zucchini bread, or like what was the genesis of zucchini bread? Because zucchini bread, it's really like a spice cake because of the flavors in there. It's not like you eat zucchini bread and you're like, ooh, the zucchini. No, that's not what's happening. So that makes me curious. But anyway, all right, we've got that ready to go. Let me bring my pans over here because we're going to somewhat evenly distribute the bread batter between the three. I also like to use 3 pans. Maybe this one is considered a half compared to the, I don't know. But I like to use 3 because I find that if the loaf is bigger, if you put more batter in the pan, then it takes longer for the center to be baked, to be cooked, but yet the outside starts to get overdone. So if I make them a little smaller, a little shorter, don't fill the pans up quite as high, then everything's happy and we get nice even baking. Okay, so let's see how we do here. We'll start there. Let's see if I can do this without slopping all over my countertop. Maybe. So far, so good. That's good in that one. All right. Add a skosh more into there. And how about the rest in this one? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay. Just gonna smooth out the top a tiny bit. That one's fine. There. Okay. We're ready to go. These are going to go into the oven. I'm going to put 2 pans in one of my ovens and the other pan in the other oven. And the recipe says to bake them for about an hour and 15 minutes. But you know me and baked goods. I'm going to start checking, I'd say between like 50 minutes and 55 minutes. Because I just can't stand baked goods. So I'm going to start checking then, and we'll see. I'll let you know how long I baked mine for. And we'll be back. The zucchini bread is done. It was in my oven, in my pans, for about 52 minutes. And it was perfect. I did the toothpick test into the center of each loaf. It pulled out. There was no liquidy batter. There were no extra crumbs. It just came out cleanly. So that's good for me. So let me show you what we got. There's the skinnier loaf. Looks good. Nice even color. It rose up. Here's the other sort of normal size aluminum pan. And then in my Pyrex. Here we go. So yeah, that for me, in these pans in my oven, it baked for about 50 some odd minutes. Definitely not the hour and 15 minutes that the recipe said, but it depends on how you like your bread. So I'm going to let these cool for a little longer, and then I will turn them out of the pan onto a cooling rack and let them cool off that way. And then hopefully I'll be able to, either in the thumbnail or at some point in the video, be able to include a photo of the bread or a slice of the bread so you can see what it's like. But it's yummy. All right. Well, if you enjoyed chatting, making zucchini bread, give this video a thumbs up. Hit that like button. It does help out my channel. If you haven't already, subscribe. It's free, and that way you get notified when I upload a new video. Leave me a comment if you have a question or something to add to the conversation. I'd love to hear from you. And we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for being here. Have a great day. Bye.